An estimated 70% of business partnerships eventually fail, and mostly within just 8 years. But with the right attention and mindset, you can break the mold. This week's guest is Christi Barbour, founder and partner of Barbour Spangle Design. Her and her business partner, Christi Spangle, have been going strong in their design firm for 24 years. Listen to Christi's full talk with Gail to learn how to find success in your business partnerships.
Hi, Christi. Great to have you here with us today. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. We're going to dive in. So talk about how you got started as an interior designer.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's always good to be here, and I just enjoy our time together. So I've been looking forward to it. So thank you again for having me.
Of course, my pleasure.
The journey to design has been an interesting one. I did go to school for design, but I didn't start my journey in school for design. So I went through 2 different majors and really liked one of my suite mates down the hall was in the design program, and I liked her homework a lot better than I did mine. So she finally was the one that said, you might want to try the design program. And it took off from there. I went to Virginia Tech. They have an incredible design program. I was raised in High Point, North Carolina. We're surrounded by creativity and design here. So after college, rather than moving to the Northeast, which was my original plan, I came back home and thought I would give it a try and see if I could make a life here for myself in a professional realm. And it has been, it's been a good one.
Well, it certainly has. And it's been fun watching you grow over the years. What do you find the most rewarding about the business, and what do you find the most challenging about it?
Well, I would say for sure the most rewarding is watching our team at work. Mm-hmm. When I walk out these doors and into the design lab and get to see them pulling products and working together and collaborating and participating with them, and that is probably the most rewarding thing. There's a lot of rewarding things about this job, but I really love our team, and I love seeing them thrive and create things that they're proud of, that they enjoy working on, and that they're excited about. So that is what generates that true joy from within. And then I would say the most challenging part is probably the people part of the business. Running a business of almost 20 people, and there's challenges that come along with that, as you well know, and have coached us through over the years.
It does not end. And just because they're lovely people doesn't mean that they don't have problems. Mm-hmm. Things happen.
They do. We try to do what we can to educate them and train them and give them the leadership and all of the things that they need so that they can be the best version of themselves. And we can too. Mm-hmm.
And you've built a great culture over time, and you've been known and rewarded or awarded for your workplace culture. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, thank you. We've been very fortunate. We have been awarded with a number of different organizations, from anywhere from With It and their mentoring award to the Best Places to Work award. We've just been very grateful for being recognized by that. And I talked to the team a lot about, we started 24 years ago in our partnership. And 24 years ago, we said, when this work is no longer fun, we're going to shut the business down. Now, we're smart enough to know we're not creating utopia, and there are going to be hard days and challenging days. But we were onto something 24 years ago that some could argue has really just now become a popular school of thought in the last decade, and that's to create an environment that really does support and engage and encourage and love and even is fun. Mm-hmm. And so that's been something that's been important to us since there were just 2 of us. And it became even more important when, we looked up a couple years later and suddenly there were more voices at the table, and we were like, whoa, no one was more surprised than us that we had more employees. And so it just made it even more important to us that we create a culture that is enjoyable to be at, that's engaging, that we're learning from one another, that we see each other, we hear each other, we respect one another, and we do really good work.
Mm-hmm. And you've worked hard to make sure that all those things are in place. So this is not an accident that you got there. These are not just arbitrary and fluffy little awards. They've been hard won.
Oh, well, thank you. It is definitely time invested, money invested, heart and soul invested. There's a lot that goes into creating a really dynamic workplace. And so it is not for the faint of heart.
No, it is not. So you've seen a lot of changes during the time you've been in business in 24 years. And what have you learned? What are the big things that you would say that, looking back now, that they were big, maybe revelations to you?
I mean, the things that come to mind are not necessarily big revelations, but they're big impact. One of the things I didn't give myself credit for a very long time is I didn't listen to my gut. And I had several smart people, including you, that I really trusted say, you need to listen to your gut. And when I started listening to my gut, there was a shift. There was a shift in how I approached things, how I responded to things, the things that I would accept or not accept. And so I think for me personally, as part of my leadership development, learning to listen to my gut has been really a very important part of who I am today. The other thing that is, again, a very personal thing, but just learning to have hard conversations for the greater good. That's really hard. And, we love our people. And that goes back to why I answered what I did about the hardest part is the people, because sometimes it requires hard conversations. And whether that's your own people or even clients, I mean, we have to have hard conversations with clients and vendors and reps and our team and other teams. So learning to lean into that rather than shy away from that. And, that's not my normal. That has been something that has been a long time evolving in me, and I'm still trying to improve those skills, but I definitely am working on them, and I'm leaning into those hard conversations a little bit more often. And then speaking of the people, I think the most important thing for me, and this, goes back to, from where I was to where I am, is surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, but also who believe in your values, and so that you can all work on common goals together.
Mm-hmm. So important to have that. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily fully clear until somebody is with you for a while, whether they fit or don't fit.
Exactly.
Right. Well,
which is where it becomes hard, right?
Exactly. So you have been partnering with Christi Spangle for many years. Mm-hmm. And over that time, the two of you have different skill sets, mm-hmm. and you've capitalized on your individual strengths. And what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from that experience?
Well, that's been a 24-year journey. As I said, we've been business partners for a long time. Mm-hmm. When we started the business, we were both really doing everything. She would do it sometimes, I would do it sometimes. We very quickly learned, wow, you tend to do these things better and I tend to do these things better. So we had a natural shift early on in our partnership where I would start doing certain things and she would start doing certain things. And then fast forward many years later, when we started working with you, you recognized even more so that there were definitely skill sets between the two of us, and gave us great advice, and also told us to read a really good book, which was Rocket Fuel. Mm-hmm. And I remember I went home and read it in a weekend and took it to work. And I'm like, please read this. This book, just like Gail said, describes the two of us so well. What we have learned over the years, whether it's through personality assessments, leadership tool teaching and training, Rocket Fuel, the EOS system, she and I have a natural born tendency to be really good at very different things. And so it is by no surprise that we've had a successful partnership because we've worked at it, but we also had some natural born things that we didn't know when we first became business partners that have played very nicely to a business partnership. The other thing, which goes back to the last question, is Christi and I are very different. You know that. People who know us know how vastly different we are in personalities and how we approach things, how we communicate, everything. But we are in lockstep on one thing, and that is our values. Our values are so strongly aligned that it has helped us work through really hard conversations, debates when we don't agree on something, hard situations, and we've dealt with a lot. I've had health issues. We've both lost parents. We've, had the ups and downs of business that you have. So that's a big part of it.
it takes a lot of patience, and this is your work wife in a way, and somebody that you spend more time with than your own spouse and your kids. So it's really important to have that right person. And if somebody is thinking about a partnership, and I would say right up front before we dive into the question, that most partnerships don't work unless it's a spouse relationship. So it's highly unusual to see a business like yours thrive with the partnership that you have. So what are some of the things that someone should consider if they want to have a partnership with somebody else?
I love this question. And I'll start by sharing, just to complement what you said. Both of my parents were just so adamantly against becoming business partners, because they both had business and personal relationships that had soured. And so they neither one of them had ever experienced a partnership that had worked at that point in their lives. And so they were very much against us becoming business partners. We felt very strongly that we could do it better and that we could do it differently. So we entered into a partnership. I think when and speaking of most partnerships don't last, my research assistant, Google, tells me that the average partnership is less than 8 years. So we are on round 3 because we are on our 24th year. So we've got something right. And we definitely have disagreements and don't see eye to eye on things. But again, those values just keep us in lockstep with one another. And we have a high level of respect and admiration for one another. And so going into a partnership, if any of your viewers or listeners are thinking about that, I think a couple of things. First of all, you have to know that your values align for all the reasons that I've listed already in this interview. You need to know where your strengths are. You need to know where kind of those growth edges are, where you can overlap and complement one another. But you also need to know that you've got strengths that you can bring to the table that will help and support that person in ways that they can't themselves. And the same in them. They can have those strengths and be able to help and support you in a way that you can't do it on your own. I feel very fortunate. We have a lot of friends who are either solopreneurs, they own the business, or they have a spouse partner. But we really don't know anybody that has a situation like ours. And, we get a lot of times we're so jealous. You're not married, but you still have somebody to go and talk to and to share the burden and share the load. And so I think all of those things are really important. But the other thing that you touched on exactly, as you said, she's like my work wife. Christi's father gave us probably the best advice we ever received from anyone. And he said this before we became business partners. He said, if you guys are going to do this, you have to take, for a lack of a better term, marital vows. You have to promise to love one another through the good and the bad, and through financial distress and financial abundance, and through high stress and high fun. And he said, you have to treat it like a marriage. And he said, and the problem is that you're going to have all the problems of a marriage, but you're not going to get all the good things that come with marriage. So if you know what I mean. So he was like, you're going to have to figure out, how do you celebrate one another and take care of each other and support one another like you would your spouse? And that's been really good advice over the years, because things have ebbed and flowed for us. And we've been in and out of the office some, based on personal affairs. And we always just, whoever needs the support, the other one has her back.
And I've watched you go through your ups and downs and the teary moments and all the things that go as part of a partnership, because it is just business, entrepreneurship. It is hard work running a business. And it is not for the faint of heart.
No.
So, when we met back in 2014, it's been 10 years now, did you have any idea where you'd be today?
No, not at all. We were 3 offices ago, and a fraction of the team ago, and we just were, no. That's my answer, no.
It's a simple answer, but it's a complicated one, because you have had a lot of journeys along the way. I remember when you bought your building, and that was a big, big move for you all. And now you're in a different space. You have a larger team. Everything has changed so much over the years. And I've watched you make these transitions, and it's never been really easy, but it has also been very methodical, I think, in the way that you've approached it, which is really good. So let's talk about some of the decisions you made. For example, you have different lines of revenue that you pursue. What led you to diversify so much?
A number of things. I would say that, first of all, it has to do with the fact that I am not a highly specialized person in terms of the things that I really find joy in and love to do. And so if we had to do one thing all the time, I think I would be bored. And so part of it is, and Christi feels the same way. So I think part of it is we felt like it was important that we build a business that fed the desire in us to be a part of different things. And so we built different teams. So it's almost like we're running multiple design studios under one roof. And we built different teams with subject matter experts in different areas of design, which gives me the pure joy of being able to step into residential or step into showroom design or step into the commercial teams world and step back out of it and do the things that I have to do here for my role. But I get to see and be part of all of these different things. So that was the drive behind the diversification. The nice thing is that when you're diversified, it really helps to spread the load and the risk. And so we've seen a lot of ups and downs over the years. You know, we've had 9/11 and we've had the crash of '08 and we've had COVID, of course, and we've had deaths in family and health scares and just the list goes on, right? It's never going to end. We've talked about this with you. You're always going to have something. There's always going to be this catastrophic event that changes to some degree. And what we have found is by having businesses in different areas, you know, residential may get slow for us, but then we're really busy in commercial and showroom work and other things and vice versa. So it has helped us. I remember you talking about, you've got to get rid of the peaks and valleys. You've got to be able to, you know, you need to smooth out all of these highs and lows. And that diversification is what helped us smooth that out. Thank you very much. Gail Dobie.
I'm glad you listened. That's all good. So what role do you currently play in the business?
Well, for those of you who know EOS, my role is visionary, but I have a very heavy emphasis on business development and really just the culture of our community, which is part of the visionary role. Business, you know, visionary under the EOS guidelines is culture and big relationships and the business development and the big ideas and like that forward thinking brain, which is, as you well know, where my brain loves to live is what's in 5 to 10 years, not what's happening today.
Sure.
Like I've moved on from today.
Was that a big shift for you from what you were doing before you started that program?
Actually not. And again, I'll give you credit for that because you recognize that. You were the one that said, I really think you need to read Rocket Fuel. And when I read it, I'm like, oh, wow, this is really the world I'm living in. I just didn't have a framework to understand like this is actually a role. I just knew that there were things I was naturally good at or really enjoyed or just felt like I derived energy, right? Like I knew when I worked on the values of our team and the cultural ethos of the office, like I drew energy and joy from that. Or when I was working with the team or when I was thinking about, you know, what are our next projects or what does 5 years look like from now? All of those things brought me joy and energy. And I also knew that there were a lot of things that completely drained my energy. And so thankfully, EOS for me was permission to really embrace the things that I love and that I'm naturally good at and let go of a lot of the things that I'm not. But you can't just let go of things, right? I mean, you have to have somebody that picks those up. And fortunately, I have a business partner because of the opposite effect that we have. She's very good at a lot of the things that I'm not. And then we round it out, which goes back to that comment I made about really surrounding yourself with smart people. We've got a great leadership team. We have an incredible design team and a support staff, which I call Heart of House. So we're just really fortunate that our team is just exceptional in that regard.
Well, it's exceptional because you're exceptional leaders. So it's not an accident that you have an exceptional team. And I love the heart of the business, or is that how you said it? The
Heart of house.
Heart of house.
Yes.
I think that is so well said, because we have living, breathing, heart-driven people that are working in our businesses, and we have to recognize that they have emotions and feelings, and we have to treat them with respect and also differentiation for each of the people.
Absolutely.
So how are you preparing for the future of the business?
That's a big question right now, but one that's very apropos, especially after the last year that I've had. The two things that come to mind for me is we're training our future generation of leaders. And so again, back to that exceptional team, we've got some really incredibly bright people who have expressed interest in more and bigger, and they have that the mindset of futuristic thinking and visionary thinking, and very operationally minded. And so training those people is important. And that in turn goes to the second thing that comes to mind is succession plan. And in order to have a succession plan, we have to have smart people that can roll into some of these roles. And so, it's obviously a multi-pronged approach, but we're working with, I should say, a lot of really smart people who are helping on the succession plan side, just, accountants, attorneys, succession people who specialize in that. But then we're also investing a lot in the development of our people to make sure that we've got people who are ready to take the reins when we're ready to let them go.
It all comes back to people.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It pretty much does. So it's the good and the bad.
It is.
And also, I think you have devoted a lot of time to charitable and leadership activities in your community. And how important has that been to the success of your business?
That's an interesting question. I mean, we've never traced what they like to say is the ROI on what we do, but I will say this. With the launch of High Point Discovered, which was a family passion project turned 501c3 nonprofit, the far-reaching impact of that organization and the impact it's made on our community, I can't quantify it. It is incredible. And it has opened doors to me both personally and professionally that I probably would have never had the ability to be a part of. And part of that is it has led to a lot of board opportunities. And I'm careful about what I choose, but I do sit on several boards. And what I didn't recognize young in my career, but I do now, so I can see it looking back, is these board seats that I've had over the years and the positions that I've had have put me in a room of people with incredible influence. And those are the people who have opened doors for opportunities for us as a company, for me personally, for Christi and I as leaders in the community. Just there's so many things. And above and beyond those two things, we did this at one of your retreats. We committed, and you probably remember this was in Florida, we committed that we were going to take a certain percent off the top. Mm-hmm. So gross numbers we were shaving off and putting into a bank account for nothing but charitable giving. And so we use those funds to give. And we often give funds so that nonprofits who could otherwise not afford our services are able to do something with us where we will give our time and our resources to create great spaces. So we've done work for the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club just this past year, and creating really great safe spaces for the children of our community by doing what we do best, and that's creating environments. So we're really trying to look at it holistically through financial gifts in the community, but our artistic talent and gifts through what we do, and then also through High Point Discovered, which is uplifting our community by telling stories of businesses and nonprofits and other organizations within the community that are doing good work.
It's been so fun watching that develop over the years, and have a magazine and website and all the things. And it is just so fun to watch that evolve.
Thank you. It's been really special. As a matter of fact, Volume 3, our third magazine, our launch party is tonight. So the community gets to see it for the first time tonight. Yeah, we're excited.
So nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned this just a second ago, but I remember years ago during a boardroom retreat that you talked about connecting the dots backwards. Mm-hmm. Besides the ones you just talked about, what other dots have you connected?
Oh my gosh, we see so many, right? And if we look for them, obviously, relationships would be huge. And again, that is a little bit of an overlap of what I said, not necessarily recognizing it in the moment, but, years later, when you can look back, you can see the thread connecting all these relationships of all these people that you've met over the years. And then you can start to trace, wow, meeting her led to this, which led to that, so those relationships tying a thread through the opportunities that we have and the life experiences we get, like that's incredible. And I think that very closely ties to the community work that I mentioned, the community work that we've mentioned and that we've been exposed to. I can now, looking back, connect all those dots to see where we invested time or money or whatever into something, how down the road it led to some really great opportunities that we probably otherwise would have never had. And then the third big bucket, I would say, is probably values, because, and you know the story, but before I started this company, I worked for a man who had no moral values. And I realized really quickly on a lot of different levels that I did not need to work for him, but B, that I never wanted to work anywhere that didn't share my own personal moral values. And so leaving that, starting my own company, being very committed to having a company that is run and led by true values that have to be shared by the people who work with us, not just in our walls, but, like even our vendors. We want all of the people that we work with to share our values, because when you do, it's easy. They're easy relationships when the values are shared. And so looking back, I can see how some of those really early on decisions that I didn't know would have the impact they did, how they've impacted who I am and who this company is and who I am as a leader and a business partner and a wife and a mother. All of that ties back to values.
That's so great. Do you have any final words of advice you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would say, one of my favorites is, and I think you and I've talked about this a lot, you do not, how do I say this? You can be kind and successful. They do not have to be mutually exclusive of one another. And we've seen, you and I have seen a lot of people who maybe feel like they can have one or the other. But I would just say to your listeners, you can have both. And that's a great way to live your life.
That is a perfect ending note. Thank you so much, Christi. As always, you have such great insights and I love you. And I'm so excited to see that you're healthy and everything is going so well for you.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. And thank you to your entire team for putting this on today. We appreciate you.
Our pleasure.
In Christi's words, a good partnership is like a good marriage. We hope you took away this lesson and many other valuable nuggets from Christi's time on the podcast. We've had both Christi Barbour and Christi Spangle on together in an episode from Season 4 of our podcast, so if you want to see where they were in 2021, you can go back and listen to that episode too. Our 2024 Interior Design Industry Survey is available to take now. Lend your voice to this survey and secure your free copy when the results are available. To take the survey, visit thepluralcollective.com/takethesurvey.